Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to say a warm welcome, a rainy welcome, but warm nonetheless, from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I want to recognize the presence of Dr. the Honorable Ralph E. Gonsalves and Mrs. Gonsalves. We also have present with us members of our executive board and our other chapter boards, friends of World Pediatrics, and well-wishers. We are being streamed live this afternoon, so pleasant good afternoon to those viewing online as well. Just one housekeeping matter, if everyone can have their cell phones either turned off or put on silent, we would appreciate it. On behalf of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as well as World Pediatrics, welcome to this special 80th United Nations General Assembly side event. My name is Lauren McIntosh Shallow, and I'm the Executive Director of the Caribbean region for World Pediatrics. Today, we celebrate a legacy of healing, 25 years of impact by World Pediatrics, a global organization dedicated to transforming access to advanced pediatric healthcare. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, undoubtedly, stands as one of World Pediatrics' longest and most impactful partners in this mission. To begin, we invite you to watch a short video that captures the heart of this legacy. From lives changed to systems transformed.
25 years ago, it began with a calling to reach the children with nowhere else to turn, to provide care where none existed, and to reimagine the future of pediatric healthcare, one child at a time. What began as a focused effort has become a global movement. Today, World Pediatrics is a trusted partner in delivering advanced care to the most vulnerable children across the globe. We don't just show up, we stay, we build, we evolve. From complex surgeries to long-term recovery. From local development to cross-border collaboration. Our work is built on one belief: kids first. That every child deserves access to the care they need to live, grow, and thrive. More than 28,000 children have received life-changing care through World Pediatrics. But around the world, over 450 million children under the age of 5 still lack access to basic life-saving surgical care. And the consequences are staggering. Each year, there are 5 times more deaths from lack of access to care than from HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria combined. These children aren't dying from rare diseases. They're dying because essential surgical care remains out of reach, and it's costing millions of lives. Children are 30% of the world's population, but they are 100% of our future. For each child, the impact reaches far beyond the operating room. When a child has access to care, a family is healed and communities grow stronger. We're celebrating 25 years of impact. We deliver care, empower care, and transform care. The time is now. The needs are immense. Together, we can make a big difference. More kids, less time, greater impact. World Pediatrics, join us to heal a child, change the world.
I think we can all agree. What a truly inspiring tribute to 25 years of purpose, partnership, and progress. To open our live program, I'm pleased to introduce the CEO of World Pediatrics, Mr. Vafa Akavan leads World Pediatrics with a bold vision to heal more children in less time with greater impact. Under his leadership, the organization has expanded its global reach and is redefining what sustainable pediatric health systems can look like. Please welcome Mr. Vafa Akavan.
Thank you, Lauren. Honorable Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, partners, esteemed cohorts, and dear friends. To all of you who have decided to be on this journey with us and to accompany us to transform the lives of children around the world, their families, and their communities. I've always believed in my heart that there is no worse a sound than that of a baby or a child crying in pain or in anguish. And that there is no greater sound, no greater picture, more wonderful than a baby or a child laughing. They are sincere, genuine, without prejudice, without boundaries or limitations, without any distortion. They are sounds of purity. Today we gather to mark a remarkable milestone, 25 years of World Pediatrics, working to create that sound, to bring a smile and laughter to the lives of children and their families, to elevate the well-being of their communities. Today we are beginning the celebrations for a quarter century of service, of compassion and transformation. Today we are beginning a new chapter in the book of our children and the future envisioned for the betterment of all communities. Children do make up 30% of the population, but indeed they are 100% of our future. Every child who grows into adulthood will shape tomorrow's communities, tomorrow's economies, and tomorrow's world. The choices they make, the dreams they pursue, the lives they lead, our collective future is the sum of the outcomes from the decisions our children make when they become adults. And yet, for far too many children, that future is at risk. 450 million of them under the age of 5 lack access to safe surgical care. To put that into perspective, as you heard in the video, 5 times more children pass away as a result of that lack of access than HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria combined. Every year, there are about 2.3 million babies that pass away during the first 28 days of life because of poor health and lack of access to care. That's equivalent to 30 Boeing 737s filled with a baby in every seat, crashing every day. It translates into more than 150 million years of life, lost every year, spread over 71 years. The lost human potential is nothing short of monumental. The economic impact alone is in the trillions of dollars. Helen Keller had scarlet fever at 19 months. Desmond Tutu had tuberculosis at 12. Frida Kahlo, a Mexican artist whose influence lives on today, had polio at 9. Mozart, smallpox at 11. How would the world be different if we diminish the human potential? How do lives change when our children are dying inexcusably? These are not simply medical statistics. These are calls to action. And the call to action at World Pediatrics began with one child brought to the United States for life-saving surgery 25 years ago. That single act of compassion sparked a movement. From one child to more than 28,000 children, from one community to more than 25 countries, from one surgery to more than $250 million in value of services that have been provided to communities around the world. 25 years later, World Pediatrics has grown into a beacon of hope, delivering care through sending medical teams so we can alleviate the pain that children suffer today. Empowering care by building local capacity so that they can achieve more for their children. And we can reallocate resources to other areas of need. And transforming care through system change in order for children to have sustainable access in underserved communities. Last year alone, we delivered about 6,600 services to 3,500 unique children. We provided 1,300 surgeries. We sent 88 medical teams into countries. We facilitated 96 referrals from one location to another. And we trained 2,600 medical professionals who took more than 31,000 hours of training. We are one of 5 development partners with the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, where we are asked and engaged in the discourse around system change. We work with hospitals to more than double their capacity for pediatric surgical care, from one child 25 years ago to delivering, empowering, and transforming care for many 25 years later. Today, we stand especially proud of our partnership with St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Together, we are building a legacy of sustainable healing and empowering capacity that will outlast all of us. Together, we are proving that when communities unite across borders, across cultures, across differences, we can achieve something extraordinary, the ripple effects of which will reverberate through time. During our 25-year presence in this great nation, we've had the privilege of serving almost 4,200 children. Only 200 were brought to the United States. The rest were treated in country and in region. There have been more than 222 teams sent to deliver care and work to develop local capacity in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Well over $40 million in value of services have been provided. This partnership with St. Vincent and the Grenadines and all Vincenzans who partner with us is an ever-evolving model for transforming the lives of children, their families, and their communities. We live in a world where the lower order of humanity, divisions, prejudices, injustices, coexist with the higher order of humanity, compassion, unity, kindness. It is this higher order of humanity that calls us forward. It is the most powerful force for change. The diverse communities, diverse perspectives, and resources united towards a common purpose. And there is no greater purpose than the well-being of children, the strategic imperative of every generation. Their health, their hope, their future, these are the ultimate investments in an ever-advancing humanity itself. The sustainable elevation of the human condition depends in large part on how well we prepare healthy children for the future. This must necessarily include attention to arguably one of the largest causes of deaths, access to surgical care. As we look ahead to the next 25 years, let us recommit ourselves to this mission. Let us be relentless in the pursuit of a world where every child, regardless of birthplace, color, ethnicity, religion, or any circumstance, has the chance to grow, to thrive, to transform, and to change a better tomorrow. Let there be no doubt, when we transform the life of a child, we transform the life of a family. When we transform the life of a family, we transform an entire community. And when we transform communities, the world itself is changed. This is not only medicine. This is not only surgical care, it is a manifestation of the highest order of humanity. To heal a child is to change the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Baba, for that powerful overview of where we've been and where we're going. Now we turn to someone who has seen this mission unfold firsthand in the operating room and around the world. Dr. Donna Brown. Dr. Donna Brown is a pediatric ophthalmologist and surgeon, and the current chair of the executive board at World Pediatrics. She's been there since the beginning. For over 2 decades, she's brought healing to children in need and worked shoulder to shoulder with local providers to build lasting change. Please welcome Dr. Donna Brown.
Thank you, Ron. That was too kind. Good afternoon. Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonzalez, distinguished colleagues and guests, family and friends. It is my honor and distinct privilege to engage with you today as a longtime volunteer surgeon and supporter of World Pediatrics. Now serving on the executive board and as chair, I hope to give you thoughts not only from the medical and surgical perspective, but also from our strategic point of view and give you a little vision for the future. You know, these roles I find myself in are not just professional ones, but deeply personal ones. They're rooted in the belief that where a child is born should not determine whether or not he or she lives or dies, thrives or declines. And I speak today for all the healthcare providers when I share with you the evolution of our care models. As Vatha mentioned, we deliver care, we empower colleagues in the regions in which we serve, and where we can, try to transform healthcare systems. You know, it's not enough to just surgically correct or repair a condition or problem. We must care for that whole child and that whole condition. This is what World Pediatrics now accomplishes. If there's an orthopedic surgical need, physical therapy is there. If there's a cleft palate repair, then the speech therapy and the dental care must accompany that program. These are just 2 examples of what we have learned through our experience over the past 25 years and how we now approach the children and the families who are entrusted into our care. As we have learned about the emotional needs and mental health challenges that sick children and their families encounter during the illnesses and the care of those illnesses, we've piloted programs to assess how best to help with that particular need. When I first began volunteering with World Pediatrics, I encountered the expected challenges of having limited resources within the countries we served. But quickly I learned something that quite naively I had not expected, something different than I had experienced in practicing within the United States. Mothers and fathers had no sense of hope or expectations for care of their children who had, for example, a congenital cardiac anomaly or a congenital ocular anomaly. Pediatric subspecialty surgical care was simply unavailable in the region and unaffordable to obtain outside the region. Through the years working with World Pediatrics, I have witnessed this hopelessness transform into an expectation for care through World Pediatrics. We have raised that bar. And you know, to parents, surgical intervention is not simply a cure for a debilitating condition, but the restoration of a possibility. For a chance for the child to go to regular school, like Haley from St. Lucia, who was born with corneal opacification in both eyes and needed corneal transplants. Imagine the day I got the photograph of Haley in her school uniform and her little backpack. Or Chandel, who was diagnosed at age 9 months with a potentially fatal retinal tumor, who was brought to Richmond, Virginia urgently for care, and not only survived, but has thrived and is now 22 years old with an infant son of his own. We're like Ezra. The young teenager who, because of a progressive corneal problem, became functionally blind and required a procedure to arrest the condition of keratoconus. Fortunately, we were able to source the care for him regionally, performed by a trusted colleague who is now become a friend, a cornea specialist in Barbados. This is occurring because of our goal to create regional and sustainable approaches to care. So we had this procedure, but the procedure alone could not completely fix Ezra's problem. He needed a specialty contact lens to be able to see well enough to read and finish his education. Now, 2 years later, because of transfer of skills to enable specialty contact lens fitting for the corneal condition he has and aid with purchasing the costly lenses, the country of St. Vincent now has this expertise. An example of systems change. And this may seem like a little bitty thing, but now Ezra will have the opportunity to pursue his dream of going to law school. His parents will have another productive family member, a child, a family, a community affected. So while World Pediatrics understands that one successful surgery changes a life, it's really the transformation of systems that changes entire generations. And this is about relationship building and resource sharing. Development of relationships with governments, which are just people, right? Just like us, like our colleagues from St. Vincent who are with us today. This takes time, it takes consistency, and it takes understanding one another. The unity of people from different nations. What sets World Pediatrics apart is the vision of not just sending medical and surgical teams to regions of the world, but working ourselves out of a job in these regions so that we can use our finite resources elsewhere to build other sustainable systems. And what we need to accomplish is with your help. Going forward is the profound effect of building these sustainable local and regional capacities elsewhere. By working side by side with hospitals and ministries of health in the Eastern Caribbean and Latin America, we are proving the model by strengthening the pediatric surgical infrastructure, training local surgeons, and identifying local talent. This will allow us to achieve the goal of ensuring that advanced care is not an exception, but part of the everyday healthcare system. Where once a child may have had to travel hundreds of miles across borders for specialized surgery, World Pediatrics is now helping to establish local referral networks, modern surgical units, and telemedicine programs that bring expertise directly to that underserved community. This systems change in practice involves training, infrastructure building, and often policy change. Local doctors, local nurses, local anesthesia providers receive hands-on mentorship so that pediatric surgical care can be sustained after visiting teams have long gone home. Operating theaters are equipped and maintained not just for today, but for years to come. Ministries of health are engaged to integrate pediatric surgical care into national strategies, making it part of the essential services every child can expect. This may include something as simple as routine vision screenings at grade level 1 in Grenada. The results of this work are not only more surgical needs identified and surgeries performed, it means fewer preventable deaths, healthier communities, and a health system that bends toward equity. Partnership with the medical arm of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States gives us the opportunity to share the vision for the region and a timeline to accomplish that goal. So why does this matter globally? The story of World Pediatrics is not only about children in the regions we currently serve, it is about the global responsibility we all share. Surgery is too often overlooked in international health priorities, as you've heard today. Yet without it, millions of children live with potentially treatable conditions that compromise their futures. A decade ago, I read about the work done by a Lancet Commission surrounding global surgery and its impact on health, welfare, and economic development. In the introduction of the article, I learned that in an index year, it was recognized that over 16 million lives, almost 33% of deaths worldwide, were lost from conditions needing surgical care and lacking the surgical care. And as you've heard, this number exceeds the number of deaths from HIV/AIDS, TB, and malaria combined. So it became a goal for me to work towards helping where I can to change this paradigm that exists, most often in low and middle income countries. World Pediatrics is proving that with vision, partnership, and persistence, we can make advanced surgical care part of a global health system that truly leaves no child behind. As volunteer surgeons, we lend our surgical skills in the operating room. But the broader success of this work depends on partnerships with governments, with institutions, with philanthropists, and with all of you here at the United Nations. Your engagement can help us not only treat more children, but also advance a model of care that is replicable, scalable, and sustainable. Together we can transform fragmented and immature systems into resilient ones, capable of protecting the most vulnerable. This is a global need and a global health need. And while we wholeheartedly support and understand the requirements for all the good work treating preventable and communicable diseases requires, and the vast number of lives saved, the need for satisfying the infrastructure for surgical care, and specifically pediatric subspecialty care globally, is our cause. After this event today, please meet us and let us know you so that we can hear and understand your thoughts and opinions. I'll leave you with this thought. Every child we save today is not just a patient. These are our tomorrow's students, leaders. They're the innovators. By investing in their health, we invest in our collective future. To heal the child is to change.
Thank you, Dr. Brown, for reminding us that behind every number is a name, a story, and, most importantly, a future. Dr. Brown mentioned the OECS Secretariat, and it would be remiss of me to not also recognize our colleagues here from the OECS Commission. I see in the audience Dr. Didicus Jules, who is the Director General of the OECS. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. Our next speaker brings the impact and the insights, showing how targeted care saves not just lives, but years of life. Dr. Carrie Dolan leads the Ignite Global Health Research Lab at William and Mary. Her case study of St. Vincent and the Grenadines examines the measurable outcomes of World Pediatrics interventions, highlighting how years of life have been saved through long-term partnership. Please welcome Carrie Dolan.
Hello, I'm Carrie Dolan, and I am a professor and also director of Ignite, a global health research lab based at William & Mary. I'm also a mom, and I could not imagine if my own son was born with cleft palate, struggling to eat, struggling to talk, struggling to integrate into school, only for me to find a hospital that might be able to help, pile into the back of a truck, drive hours to get there, and reach the hospital only to find out that there's no surgical team available. This is the reality that many mothers face, and this is where World Pediatrics comes in. They connect children that need surgeries with qualified medical teams, and they change lives. At Ignite, what we wanted to be able to do is we wanted to be able to tell the impact of their story. And so how do we tell the impact of the story? Not just the impact of one specialty, like I said with the cleft palate, but the impact of all of the specialties that World Pediatrics conducts. We started by asking a question. We know that World Pediatrics changes in individuals. Vafa told us that the surgeries change individuals, they change families, they change communities, and as a result, it changes the world. We wanted to know, does it change more than just a life? Does it also make good financial sense? And to answer that question, we started telling the story of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So, told you I was mom, but I also told you I was a professor. So we're starting out with my professor hat on, and we're gonna learn something. So I'm gonna talk to you about the disability adjusted life years. This is a common metrics that we use in health economics. It's called a DALY. And I want you to think of it like a jar of marbles. So imagine that you have a marble. For each marble in the jar, it represents 1 year of healthy life. So if a kid is sick, if a kid is disabled, if they die before we think they should, then you're losing marbles from that jar. Surgeries can help add those marbles back into the jar, restoring healthy years of life. And it's important that we understand this measure because it's a common measure that we can use to describe all of those surgeries. So not just one like the cleft palate, but all of them and compare them in a way that makes sense. So to figure out how many marbles we have to start with a really good research process. So the first thing we did is we went out and we found all the direct costs that we knew that World Pediatrics spent. And then we added that to indirect costs. These are things like the volunteer time, the donated medical supplies. We put all of that into a cost effectiveness framework, and then it allowed us to look at impact 2 ways. So those DALYs that I just told you about, but also cost effectiveness as a whole. And before we can start adding those marbles back in the jar, it's really important we understand who we're counting. Who is in this study that we looked at? We had about 650 kids across 18 years, and it covered 914 different surgeries. So the average age of these kids was about 8, elementary school age, but the age range was wide. So we had newborns in our sample all the way up to young adults around 20 years of age. It was a pretty even mix between male and female, and this diversity is really important to highlight because when we're looking at impact here, we're not looking at impact in just one specific age group, we're looking across a range, and so we're able to tell that story. After we know who is in our study, we need to know what's happening in our study. So we need to take a look at the kinds of procedures that are being conducted. So about half of these surgeries were for the eyes or for the face, so things like correcting when the eyes don't line up properly, or cleft palate, cleft lip. We also had a lot of orthopedic surgeries, so things like club foot correction or spinal surgeries, and then general surgeries like hernia repairs. There was a smaller number of cases that were neurological or urological. So what's important here is that these surgeries are not cosmetic, they are not optional. As been said by the 2 speakers before, these are surgeries that are important to changing the lives, to creating an opportunity for these kids to walk, to play, to run, to grow, and to contribute to the broader community. Next up, we need to know about our costs. So these are the direct costs. These are the costs that we knew that World Pediatrics spent. And over this 18-year period, they spent about $3.5 million, or an average of $4,000 per surgery. When you're looking at this slide, oh, it didn't go. There it is. When you're looking at this slide, what you can see is that the most expensive surgeries, the most expenses came from the orthopedic surgeries and the eye surgeries. So the orthopedic surgeries are resource intensive. They often required specialized surgical equipment and longer times for rehabilitation. And then eye surgeries were a large share, but that's simply because there were so many of them that were being conducted. Neurosurgery stood out as the most expensive on a per case basis, and that really makes sense when you start to think about it, when you think about the complex nature of that kind of procedure. So we add all of this up, it's about $3.5 million across that 18 years, $4,000 a procedure. And if you add in those indirect costs, so remember I told you we had 2 kinds. We had the direct costs that are these, and the indirect, that's our volunteer time, our medical mission, our donated medical supplies. It's about $15 million or $16,000 per procedure. So whether you're looking at just the direct cash costs or you're looking at that full economic picture, what you're seeing is that these numbers really show that for relatively small. Okay, so we know our method, we know our people, we know a little bit about that money that is in the study, and now we can start to turn and look at the results. And this slide is so exciting. So think back to our marbles. Remember I told you that one marble is representing one healthy year of life restored? For this slide only, one marble is representing 100 years of healthy life restored. So over this 18-year period, as a result of World Pediatrics work and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, urology restored 400 years, orthopedic surgeries 544 years, neurosurgery about 730, and then we see this huge jump. Plastics 1,100 years, general surgeries 1,500 years, and then eye surgeries 1,800 years. So if you add all of this up, it's about 6,000 years of healthy life restored as a result of World Pediatrics work. And I'm going to take a second and pause so that we remember that behind these marbles and behind these numbers are kids. And so that's really quite impressive when you think about that that's 6,000 years of childhood that was given back as a result of World Pediatrics. So it's not just about lives gained. We also want to know more about what's going on. We want to know if this makes good financial sense. And so we did the next kind of impact measure, which is moving into cost effectiveness. And what we're looking at here, when we go back to my marble analogy, is that if you have the jar of marbles, how much does it cost to put a marble back in that jar? And so for some of the procedures, it was a few $1,000s. For some, it was a little bit more. And here's what we found. So the most efficient surgeries were neurosurgery, pediatric general surgery, eye surgery, and plastic surgery. So each of these, you could buy a marble, you could restore a healthy year of life for less than $3,000. That makes them highly cost effective. Urology came in next, about $7,000 per marble. A little bit more costly, yes, but still in the global health community, we consider that quite a good value. And then finally, orthopedic surgery, and nearly $10,000 a marble. So on paper, you might be thinking, oh, that's a lot more, but you have to remember the complexity of that surgery, and then also what that is doing in terms of reintegrating that kid in society in a way that they otherwise wouldn't. So in global health, we use a benchmark to decide if something is cost effective. And St. Vincent and the Grenadines benchmark is $3,700 per healthy year of life restored. So when you're looking at this slide, you can see the global standard and the thresholds, and you can see the 4 specialties: neurosurgery, pediatric general surgery, eye surgery, and plastic surgery all came well below that threshold. Next up was urology and orthopedics at about 7,000 and 10,000. So again, on paper, that looks like it's more, but you have to take into account what those surgeries are doing in country for those kids. Now, this is the most impressive thing of the whole presentation, is that little pink bar. For $2,600 on average, World Pediatrics is putting a marble back in the jar. That's incredibly impressive and well below that $3,700 benchmark. So, of course, no study is without its limitations, and it's really important that you're transparent and that you understand what the limitations are when you study design. So, first of all, we're only measuring health gains in this particular study. We're not taking into account the costs that families incur. We're not considering their transportation costs, their lodging costs. We're not considering the time off of work that they have to take for their kid to get the surgery or for them to be there while the kid recovers. Next up, our sample size is sometimes small. So I told you that we had 914 surgeries, which is quite impressive. It's a good sample. But when you start to break that down, some of the subspecialties were smaller than others, and that can increase that can decrease the precision in some of the estimates. Third, this is not a randomized controlled trial. Economic evaluations, cost effectiveness evaluations, they don't have a control group in the sense that we randomize people into, you got the surgery, you didn't get the surgery. So it's just important to highlight. It's not that kind of impact evaluation. And then finally, these results are specific to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So the costs are specific, the outcomes are specific, and so you have to be careful about generalizing too broadly to other areas of the world. Even with these limitations, the message of the data is very clear. World Pediatrics represents a high value investment for the surgeries that are being conducted in St. Vincent. So all of our findings are in this peer-reviewed publication in VMJ Open, and I was lucky to have the opportunity to lead this study, but I surely did not do it alone. So I want to take a second and acknowledge my colleagues, so Sam, Brian, Charles, Bill, Emily, and Justice. Together, we not only harness perspectives from William & Mary, but also from World Pediatrics and the University of Ghana. And if you're a data person, like me, you can scan that QR code and you can get more information on the methods or the details of the tables. And today what I really tried to do is bring those numbers to life and pull those out and talk about it in terms of the impact on the kids. The details are there if you want to scan the code. So let me close with this. The question isn't whether or not we can afford to do these surgeries. The question is whether or not we can afford not to act. So we know that these surgeries don't just fix medical problems. They're restoring thousands of years of healthy life. In fact, we know they restored 6,000 years of healthy life in this particular instance. And so each marble that's going back into that jar is filling up a lifetime of health that these kids deserve. And the most powerful part is that on average, World Pediatrics is doing this. They're putting the marble back in the jar for $2,600. And so that's not just cost effective, it's an incredible investment in these children's future. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. You certainly brought the numbers to life. And I know I have an appreciation for the marbles analogy. Every time I see a child at clinic now, I'm going to be thinking, every year of life is another marble, you know, and we're adding to children's lives, which we get to see firsthand. So thank you again. And now, it is our great honor to welcome our host and partner in this legacy. I'm delighted that we have our keynote speaker and co-host of today's event, the Honorable Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. the Honorable Ralph E. Gonsalves. Prime Minister Gonsalves is one of the most recognizable public figures in the Caribbean and the longest serving Prime Minister in the region. He completed a bachelor's degree in economics at the University of the West Indies, followed by a master's in government in 1971. In 1974, he earned a PhD in government from the University of Manchester. And in 1981, the degree of Utter Barrister from Gray's Inn, London. Prior to becoming Prime Minister, Dr. Gonsalves practiced law extensively in the fields of constitutional, administrative, matrimonial, real property, tort, and contract law. He is also a well-published author, a tireless advocate for the Caribbean, for small island states, and for developing nations. Prime Minister Gonsalves has elevated St. Vincent and the Grenadines on the global stage. Under his leadership, the country has undertaken diplomatic responsibilities far beyond its size, including serving as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council from 2020 to 2021. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has also played a vital role in advancing pediatric healthcare throughout the Eastern Caribbean. Standing as one of World Pediatrics' strongest and longest standing regional partners. Together, we have delivered life-changing care to thousands of children through this collaboration. Given his leadership, distinguished career, and enduring commitment to equitable healthcare and global cooperation, it is with pleasure that I now invite Dr. the Honorable Ralph E. Gonsalves, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, to deliver his keynote address.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson Lauren. Everyone who's at the head table and all our friends who are gathered here, and the Director General of Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. I believe that some of you saw me tearing up a little when Dr. Brown was speaking. I just couldn't help it. Some of these first children, I know them, and I know the circumstances. Now, I remember reading, I'm sure you have done the same thing, the book of Luke. I'm a Roman Catholic, so I understand and I welcome and embrace all religions. Christ had posed the question, the book of Luke, who is my neighbor? The discussion he was having was with a distinguished lawyer. Christ, as always, very profound, didn't just answer who's my neighbor, told a story about someone walking on the dangerous road to Jericho. And he was set upon by a robber, stole from him and injured him. And the Levite passed by. Levite, the old name for the public servant, the civil servant, the mandarin, the bureaucrat. He passed by. Priest passed by. I believe the book of Luke didn't say, but I believe the lawyer also passed by. And then the Samaritan came. The Samaritan, not a Hebrew, from a different nation. He cleaned the wound, bound up the wound, took this person who was eaten and robbed to an inn, left some money with the innkeeper, said to the innkeeper, take care of him for me, feed him, I'm going to do some trade, and when I come back, if I owe you any money, I will pay you. I've always thought of World Pediatrics project, and the doctors and the nurses and all the technical persons and all the donors and everybody who has helped in this extraordinary humanitarian project as good Samaritans. But we are all on the dangerous road to Jericho. But for the grace of God, we could have been his children. And it's about medicine, it's about caring, it's about all about love. And the love that the World Pediatric Project has shown. Go to an old friend of mine, young Shakespeare. I have many old friends, and if you've been around as long as I've been around, I think I would live it. Shakespeare said it, as compellingly as Paul said it in the First Corinthians chapter 13. Love is an ever-shake smile that looks on tempests and is never shaken. Looks at tsunamis and hurricanes and storms and volcanic eruptions and is never shaken. You listen to Dr. Brown, you see love coming through. Hugo, come to Papa. Come to Papa. Come to Dad. In 2001, March, when I came to office, I had known about the early commencement of what has evolved into the World Pediatric Project. And the Lord, Dr. Brown's involvement, her husband, and the work of a man whose name I must mention, the father of Lauren, Sir Frederick Nathaniel Valentine, former Governor General of our country, and who was once the Chief Medical Officer, who is part owner of Young Island Resort, where when the doctors and the nurses and the other technical persons from the state, they enjoyed this lovely island, which is just across from St. Vincent, part of St. Vincent. And we took a simple decision in cabinet, which made a difference. You know, the bureaucracies all over the world. People are coming in. They come from far. They want to help. Persons get suspicious about those who want to help. And apparently there was such a suspicion among some medical personnel. I said, no, these medical missions, we must integrate them into our health system. They are not episodic. They are not any addenda. They're central to our delivery of healthcare, and in this case, critical pediatric care of a first world nature. And I said, therefore, the Ministry of Health, Permanent Secretary, Chief Medical Officer, all the leading officials must treat this particular group, and there were one or two others, as central to the delivery of healthcare in St. Vincent and Grenadines, which means practically that when they have to come in and they bring in, they have to show under our law, they have to be registered with the medical council. If you're not registered with the medical council or the nursing council, these independent bodies, you're functioning unlawfully. If anything goes wrong, issues of insurance and all the rest of it. In fact, it is a criminal offense anywhere at all in the civilized world to practice medicine or nursing. If you're not registered, you show the qualifications and everything. But not with that. If you're at it, I said, all that the World Pediatric Project has to do, the persons involved, is send your documentation to the Ministry of Health, and the officials of the Ministry of Health have the responsibility to see them through the system. And it is done now routinely. The other thing is that you want to do surgery. Now, there are other doctors who have surgeries organized. So we had to sit during the time when World Pediatric Project comes. If they're coming for a week, they're coming for 2 weeks, whatever period they're coming for. They come now. There's a permanent presence, but they come 15 times a year. They come 17 times a year. They come 18 times a year. This is Dr. True, who is Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. And he's a medical doctor in his own right. His wife is from St. Vincent and the Grenadines and worked here on our security council team at this mission. I should just say this, permit me this. Some countries exercise hard power It's my intention to colonize the entire Eastern Caribbean through the women of St. Vincent. That's part of my strategic purpose. We have St. Kitts and Nevis, we have the British Virgin Islands, and I'm picking them off one. No. So we have to say, well, during the period when the World Pediatric Project comes, one of the theaters must be made available all the time. And then, of course, as we got mature, together we built a theater well equipped by World Pediatric Project itself, so that when they come, they have their own theater. But with the surgery, you need a theater. So there are practical things that you did. I just mentioned a few. Of course, when they come to the airport, the immigration officers know that these are special people. By not instruction from friends, that I don't instruct people, I speak to them gently and say, well, you understand, these are special people. You know, customs officers have a way of turning up your personal belongings. So these are special people. All people who bring out the love, treat them very, very well. So a number of large and small things. And then what is beautiful about the World Pediatric Project is that it has the trust of the American government, which means that when you require visas for the children and their parents, once the World Pediatric Project says, we are taking this child from St. Vincent, take them to St. Louis, to the hospital there, they know that this is not a scam, this is bona fide. This, I don't know anything at all in relation to our that goes as seamless, smooth, like what we do with the World Pediatric Project. Now, I have said in Parliament that arguably the most significant health innovation in my country since independence in 1979 is World Pediatric Project. Arguably. I use the adverb to cover myself, arguably. One of the vanities and put other things about the World Pediatric Project. Don't know if you heard the statistics in relation to St. Vincent and Grenadines. Remember, Rafa said over 40 million US dollars, but it's more in excess of 50 million in value, because you see, you've done now about 11,000 or so consultations. You've done about 10% of those in surgery. But there are thousands of consultations which do not result in surgery, which result in other forms of health management. And that has to be taken account of in the analysis. Carrie has given the analysis. I listened to her very carefully and I asked her for a copy of her presentation because I want to study it. She was analyzing the cost effectiveness of the surgery. Now I want you to think of this, and I tell people in St. Vincent and Grenadines this. Imagine you're having for our children from birth to 21 critical pediatric care of a first world nature, free of cost, where children in similar positions in New York, in Chicago, Michigan would not be able to get that critical care. This is a remarkable story. It is one to the ages. And I'm so happy that you gathered here. Dr. Jules will tell you that we have not been selfish about it. I went to the leaders of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. I said, we have this marvelous thing called the World Pediatric Project. And we want you to send your children there to St. Vincent. I've been to CARICOM, which is the wider Caribbean community. And as far as I'm aware, in the Eastern Caribbean, which would include countries on Central American mainland, on the South American mainland of Guyana and Suriname. We have had patients from Guyana and Suriname. And we have had from Barbados. We have had from Antigua, from Dominica, from Grenada, from St. Kitts and Nevis, from St. Lucia. The only island in the Eastern Caribbean that I don't think we have had a patient from is, or territory, is Trinidad and Tobago. Perhaps in the last year or so, we had finally, the good news has arrived. Finally, the good news. Trinidad can be a very peculiar nationalistic and even chauvinistic place. Yeah, in Trinidad and say, please forgive me. My wife is a Trinidadian. My mother was a Trinidadian, so I know them well and I can afford to speak like this. It's a marvel. Absolutely a marvel. And I want to tell you this. Dr. Brown and her team, on more than one occasion, have come to me, well, they've stopped doing it now. I said, listen, Prime Minister, we provide all these services in the hospital, support services free for people from St. Kitts, from Barbados, from Guyana, and so forth. Guyana now has a lot of oil money. As you know, the fastest growing economy in the world. You need to charge some money for that. I said, no. What can I charge? They're my Caribbean brothers and sisters. You have come from afar. And you're doing all what you're doing free. It is our obligation to provide for our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean this service to them free, so that whatever medicine we use, whatever support staff we use, whatever we use in our hospital, and whatever arrangements we do it free of charge. So it doesn't matter whether the child who is dealt with critical pediatric care in St. Vincent and Grenadines, whether the child is from St. Vincent or the child is from Guyana, Suriname, Dominica, it's the same thing. We could nothing, zero. And then, he said they brought up 200 patients. I think that's the number you said, to the US over the last 25 years. They also do not pay anything. Transportation is organized for them. Have a particular arrangement. Susan, I understand, isn't here, who's a wonderful woman who preceded Fana. And I have to remember her because she's amazing and I love her very much. And I want to thank her for all the work that she has done. And now we have the government presence with Lauren administratively and the other support persons there. They're doing incredible work. This event undoubtedly is the most important event that I'm having here in New York at the time of the United Nations. General Assembly, I will speak in slot tomorrow. I'm number 6 on the speaking slot. Netanyahu is speaking just before me. The head of the Chinese delegation, the Prime Minister is speaking just before me, immediately before me, the Prime Minister of the United far lesser importance than what you are doing here tonight, yes, and Dr. Brown. I just want to tell you that honestly. Thank you. I really don't know what else to say. Other than, parents, Vincent, and not only to Dr. Mark Valley to see your in-laws, but also to you to see what they're doing. I just want to point this out, that at the moment we are building a state-of-the-art acute care hospital. Just a couple of miles out of the city, Kingston. We're building a new city. It's an extended city area. And the theme for that city will be health and wellness. We've got a big sports facility which we have built according to Trust World standards. We're building this hospital too, but we're keeping them under the management of the Milton, the existing Milton Royal Hospital, the main hospital. But that main hospital we are going to restructure. We're going to do a lot of renovative work. It's going to have specialist pediatric care, special obstetrics, gynecology, maternity care, and also naturally accidental emergency. And the facilities, both of them are going to be there for the use of the World Pediatrics project. It's a big addition what we're doing. We have we borrowed $120 million US from a bank in Taiwan with the support of the Chinese government. Just in case you don't know, we are one of the few countries in the world that have diplomatic relations with Republic of China, Taiwan. We don't have diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China, not because we do not want to have diplomatic relations with them. They say that if you want to have diplomatic relations with us, you have to break the relations with Taiwan. And we have had these relations in Taiwan since 1981, and we are working well together. I believe in friendship and loyalty, and we work with the People's Republic of China, the United Nations, and the World Bank, the IMF, and the Caribbean Development Bank. We are friends of all, and we strive for a better world. But you don't tell us that if you want to have diplomatic relations with China, that you're not going to dictate and tell me that I break relations with a particular friend. Other countries would make other decisions that suit their interests. You've done this in relation to Taiwan. We have this loan and we're building out, we're spending about $80 million US on the hospital itself, and some equipment, and we take the rest of the money to strengthen the health system, including the Milton Royal Hospital. So a lot of investment is taking place in health, but always central in our delivery is the World Pediatric project. Thank you very much for coming to this event. Really overjoyed at your presence. And I want to invite you, those of you who have not yet been to Grenadines, please come. When you come, you have to come to my home in the bush. Enjoy my hospitality. Eloise has built a house for us in the bush. I tell my friends that I live in the bush alone. Like a Rasta man but with internet. So, well, I'm from that part of the country. So
Thank you, Prime Minister, for your powerful words and for your enduring commitment to global health equity. We are deeply grateful to the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for co-hosting today's event and for being such a vital party or partner in this 25-year journey. Your leadership continues to inspire what's possible when small states take bold steps on the global stage and when children's health is treated as a universal priority. On behalf of World Pediatrics and the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, thank you to everyone who joined us today. I wanted to open the floor, and I think Dr. Jules may have beat me to it, for any questions or comments that anybody may want to make at this time. And I think Dr. Jules is making his way up to the podium, so we'll have a question from him.
Prime Minister Gonzalez and Mrs. Gonzalez, Prime Minister Drew and Mrs. Drew, distinguished CEO of WPF, and also Dr. Brown, who is the in-region Chief of Mission. I felt compelled to ask for the floor to say a few words. I think the presentation by the World Pediatric Program speaks for itself, not just in terms of the numbers and the quality of care, but also to the human aspect and impact that it has had. What I wanted to do was to add the appreciation of the entire OECS for the work done by WPF, the World Pediatric Program, sorry.
Yeah, he has World Food Program on this.
And I say this because when this program was established, Prime Minister, also because Prime Minister Gonzalez is the current sitting chair of the OECS authority. But from the inception of this program, it was very clear that it not only had to serve St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but all of the OECS. And as you heard, he subsequently extended the opportunities to the wider Caribbean. And I think that speaks to his commitment to the region. There is no medical or other program that has been run in St. Vincent and the Grenadines that has not been extended to the rest of the OECS. He's done it with diabetic care, diabetic foot treatment, as well as with the pediatric care. Equally, and now that Dr. Drew is here, it is how we roll, as they say in the OECS, because the St. Kitts and Nevis, for example, has rolled out a state-of-the-art biometric portal for ease of travel across the OECS, and that too has been made available through its instrumentality to all of the countries. So we really want to say thanks to the program for the work that they've done, and also to thank Prime Minister Gonzalez for his generosity in consistently sharing every benefit he's received with the rest of the OECS. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jules, for those comments. I have to agree that we definitely have seen the advocacy and Prime Minister Gonzalez being a champion of World Pediatrics over the years. We've collaborated over the years, and it has grown and expanded to the Eastern Caribbean at large. And we're proud that we're now actually a development partner of the OECS. So we've certainly made strides over the years. So thank you, Dr. Jules, as well as Dr. Gonzalez. Are there any questions, any other questions or comments at any? We have Dr. Drew, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts. Please.
Yes. Thank you very much, the Commissioner, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Let me recognize all at the head table, of course, including Lauren, all those who are here. I'm a medical doctor by profession, in practice over 20 years, and the Minister of Health, the Speaker, or the President Cabinet of CARICOM, President Cabinet of the Minister of Health. And so this morning, a statement on behalf of CARICOM on NCDs. But I want to say that, of course, I've met Lauren. And partnering with the World Pediatric Project, I've seen how this has impacted the lives of our people in cities. Children, parents, communities, country as a whole. When you live in a small community, everybody knows when a child is seriously or critically ill. And everybody knows when a child is ill. And everybody knows whether the child survived or not. The World Pediatrics Project has really brought a lot of smiles and hope to our people. I'll wrap up by saying just recently, Lauren came and she sat with me. She showed me the numbers of how this project has impacted St. Vincent and Nevis. And I am truly impressed and I'm very grateful for the significant work that has been done. And I told her that the whole country needs to know about this because this impact has truly been tremendous and transformative. So I would lastly say that this will have the full support of St. Vincent and Nevis and to encourage you all. Thank, of course, Prime Minister, my senior, they call it, for his collaboration, because our children go down to St. Vincent, they don't have to pay anything. And that, of course, must be appreciated. And this is the first time I'm telling you, please visit. Thank you.
And I give you a wife. The only thing I leave now to give you is the whole of St.
And I'm eternally grateful. So thank you very much. Thank you to WPP, and thank you all very much for being the support. So I had to come and give my own measure of support. Not because my wife is from St. Vincent, because I have come to respect the work that Lauren has been doing. And I've said to her in private, of course I've said publicly as well, World Pediatrics project in St. Vincent is a transformed project. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Drew. Appreciate it as always, and we know that we're going to grow from strength to strength in terms of what we offer in St. Vincent and Nevis as well. But St. Vincent, yes. Do we have any other questions or comments from the floor? Okay, so I think we can all agree that this has been a powerful celebration of 25 years of healing, partnership, and progress for children across the globe. Before we conclude, we would like to take a moment to honor 3 individuals whose contributions have left an indelible mark on this mission. To present these tokens of appreciation, I'm pleased to invite the CEO of World Pediatrics, Mr. Ghaffar Akban, to hand over the tokens of appreciation. Our first honoree is Dr. Donna Brown. We begin by recognizing someone whose leadership and service span both the boardroom and the operating room. Dr. Donna Brown, Chair of the Executive Board and longtime volunteer surgeon, has dedicated over 2 decades, although she does not look it, right? To healing children and strengthening pediatric care systems across the globe. Dr. Brown, with deep gratitude for your tireless service, please accept this plaque as a symbol of our appreciation. Our second honoree this afternoon is Dr. Carrie B. Dolan. Next, we honor Carrie, who is an associate professor at William & Mary and director of the Ignite Global Health Research Lab. She has brought critical insight into the measurable outcomes of our work, quantifying the years of life, and we'll always remember the marbles, Carrie, saved in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and validating the long-term impact of global pediatric care. Dr. Dolan, please come forward. Thank you. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you. Our third honoree is the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph E. Gonsalves. The Honorable Dr. Ralph B. Gonzalez, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, has championed equitable healthcare, supported international collaboration, and welcomed World Pediatrics as a trusted partner in transforming pediatric care across the Eastern Caribbean. Prime Minister, it is with deep respect and heartfelt appreciation that we present you with this plaque in recognition of your visionary leadership and steadfast partnership. At this time, we'd like to ask all of the speakers just to join us at the front for a commemorative group photo to mark this meaningful moment. 25 years of healing and the shared journey ahead, which we are all looking forward to. So a quick photo opportunity. And I also want to say, before we part ways, we warmly invite you to stay for a few moments of connection and conversation. Whether you're interested in learning more about our programs, sharing reflections, or continuing today's dialogue, we welcome the opportunity to engage with each and every one of you. Thank you again for being a part of this important celebration and milestone for us here at World Pediatrics. We look forward to the work ahead together. Thank you all.
Taking our picture.